The first race in the World of Outlaws 2024 season has an absolutely stacked entry list with 56 cars competing on Friday night after Thursday night was rained out at Volusia Speedway Park down in De Leon Springs, Florida. The cream rose to the top in the heat races. There were 6 heat races. Ethan Dotson won, Bobby Pierce as well, Mike Marlar, Dale McDowell, Devin Moran, and Ricky Thornton Jr. all won their heat races. They obviously rose to the top. Some people did struggle, though, a little bit, had to go to last chance qualifiers and didn't even do well in the last chance qualifiers, had to settle for provisionals. Probably the biggest story on that was Dennis Erb Jr. He had a first lap wreck during his heat race. Let's take a look at this here that put him behind the 8 ball and has put him behind the 8 ball for the rest of the night. You can see he will be starting in the 13th row in 26th position. So he has a long row to hoe coming up in the feature. But let's look at what happened with Dennis Erb Jr. on the first lap of the race right here. Let's take a listen, or let's take a watch. So he's the blue car in the front of your picture, goes down into turn 1 and 2. Gets a little bit clipped and goes spinning, hits the inside wall, and gets stuck in the mud there due to the rain that came in all through yesterday and canceled the races there on Thursday night. So he would not recover. It was really hard to pass. This track was really fast. And pretty much if you were in the front, you were going to stay in the front unless you messed up, went up high, and got into the cushion, which would really slow you down. We did have some commentary from, I think it was Garrett Smith on the contact with Dennis Erb Jr. following the race. This is from Always Race Day. Garrett Smith said, I think Dennis Erb knew he messed up because he was too worried about keeping me on the racetrack. He just went down to turn 1 and turned too early and about hit the wall. He pushed out in front of me and I had a good run. I just didn't have time to brake for him. So that is what Garrett Smith had to say. Let's take a look at this again real quick here to see what happened. You can see Erb right here already going into turn 1. And Smith kind of just clips him. I'm not sure if I really agree with Garrett's assessment of the situation. It does look like he gets into his right rear, and he's the one that spins Dennis Erb Jr. into the wall there. Obviously, it wasn't like significant contact, so maybe Erb had messed up a little bit. But I think without Garrett hitting him, I don't think Erb is in the wall there. But that is what he had to say. And so Dennis Erb would then struggle in his last chance qualifying race right here. Boom Briggs would take the win, and Drake Troutman would end up finishing in second. They would advance. I think Dennis Erb finished in 4th. So he would have to take the provisional based off of previous performance in the World of Outlaws series. Dennis Erb was not the only one to struggle. Probably the biggest heartbreak of the night was Daniel Hilsabeck. He was in a transfer spot in the last chance qualifier, was in second place on the last lap, coming out of turn 3 and 4. It looks like an engine blows up, has some kind of mechanical failure, and rides up the track and then spins out into almost the entrance to the pit. So let's take a look at this here. This is Hilsabeck on your screen in the red number 22. So you can see he's already broken something. He's chasing it up the track, and then he's getting passed by Whitner, and then he brings it down and spins out right in front of the pit entrance. And his night would be over. He would not get a provisional. Someone else who was struggling was Kyle Bronson. He actually had a pretty decent restart in Heat 6, but then would fade. Brian Shirley would get this huge run. Tanner English would get around him on the inside. He would also drift up the track and get up into the cushion and fade back into like 6th, so he would not advance in his heat, and then he would struggle in his last chance qualifier, basically just kind of running around the back, though, knowing that he had the provisional, not really even trying to advance. But let's look at what happened here in his heat race.
Race lead back.
You can see Shirley gets a huge run. English gets a run on the inside. Bronson tries to stay on the outside, and that's just not the lane to be right now on the track. Gets really high up there and then loses another spot. Finally gets it back down, but he would be unable to recover moving forward. And as I said, he would have to settle in a last chance qualifier and then wouldn't perform very well in that either and have to settle for that provisional, which you can see here. He is starting on the 13th row right next to Dennis Erb Jr., and he will be starting in 25th. So some rough starts for some top contenders already in the World of Outlaws. Bronson finished 4th last year, was looking to improve upon that, but he's already getting behind the 8 ball already in the first race of the World of Outlaws Late Model Series. So it looks like we're going to have a great feature, though. We've got those top 6 look really, really good. You got Bobby Pierce, you got Ethan Dotson, you got Mike Marlar, you got Dale McDowell, you got Devin Moran, and you got Ricky Thornton Jr. So it's going to be a fun race, I think, a fun feature. And hopefully the track does improve. Obviously, the rain last night doesn't really help, but we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a really interesting on the restarts, and that's where we're going to see a lot of the movement. But who knows? Maybe they get it really, really going good for the feature. But let me know what you guys make of what happened to Dennis Erb Jr., what happened to Kyle Bronson, and what happened to Daniel Hilsabeck during the heat races and the last chance qualifiers for this first race here for the World of Outlaws at Volusia Speedway Park.